Hello, welcome to the sanctuary. I am here with my special guest, Nancy Robbins, energy intuitive and psychic medium. Very well known here in Florida at our fairs at our Spirit Fest. And welcome, glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Um, so, how are things in your vortex garden over there?
Um, Very busy. Just as kind of a quick recap for those that don't know, I work with a lot of different higher dimensional beings. I work with, I have a group of Pleiadians and Arcturians and beings from Venus and Sirius that work with me in my garden. I'm also working a lot with different ascended masters and the elementals. I have the She of the inner earth realms. I have the She, the Agarthans, and the Lemurians that are also working with me. So we do a lot of planetary healing work through the garden. And through the past several months, there has been some light from Venus coming down on the planet, which has been the pink ray of love and the white ray of purity mixed together.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was going through June into July. And then following that, it was a Syrian light that is a soft blue and white light ray that was coming onto the planet. And what these rays seem to have been doing is the ray from Venus was creating helping us to create a new civilization to help us in building the new Earth, which is the major transformational stage that we're going through now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the light from Sirius seemed to help us move up into our higher psychic skills, our higher visioning skills, so that we can start innovating and become more creative with all of the new solutions that we're trying to come up with to fix all of the old that just isn't working. And then since the autumn equinox, the ninth ray, which is an aqua ray that Mother Mary heads up, that ray is the ray for higher potentials.
Mm-hmm.
And that ray has been coming on. So basically, all of this is trying to move us up into our higher potential.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's currently happening now. And the messages that I get from my guides most recently all speak about moving into our heart and listening to our heart and our soul, which I think was almost part of the reason behind why we had to quarantine. And I guess the silver lining in the quarantine was that it forced us to stop running around. It stopped the hamster wheel for a while so that we could actually listen to ourselves and start gleaning what's really important to us, what is of value, and what is just busyness that's not important in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the main things, moving into our heart, and listening and being more compassionate, listening to our soul's passions that are in our heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a defining moment in that was actually with the George Floyd, when he was crying out to his mother. I think that cried out to the mother within all of us. And I literally felt like our hearts cracked open at that point in time. And if we had not been already quarantined and already tapped into our quiet inner self, we wouldn't have heard that. We wouldn't have, I don't think the dynamic change that caused in so many of us would have happened. So I feel like that. And so now that it's opened, now we need to move forward from there. And I think that is why the aqua rays coming through, and we're all meant to be moving into our higher aspects, our higher self, and being more of our higher self now than we've ever done. And so moving into our heart, connecting into our higher selves, And one of the best ways to do all of that is connecting with the earth. And all of the earth energy is very important. It's almost like the earth magic, connecting into the crystalline grid and merging with that energy is really important, because that's what helps move us up vibrationally into the higher vibrations. And the higher we can raise our vibration, the healthier we are, the safer we are from COVID, and the more we move into our higher gifts and abilities. And the workshop that we're planning on doing this weekend at the show in Sarasota, and also the one in Melbourne, is the Crystal Power Workshop. And that touches on all of these aspects. It touches into moving into your heart, connecting to the spirits of the crystals from your heart. And then they become sort of allies in helping us to access more information. We actually will be doing hands-on experience of connecting to the spirit of the crystal, and then allowing the crystal to take us on a journey to receive information. And we'll also be connecting in with the crystalline grid of the earth and moving into greater harmony within ourselves. So all of the things that they've been saying to me that are really important have been worked into the workshop, the Crystal Power Workshop. So I think it will be pivotal and meaningful to a lot of people. When I've taught it in the last show, they learned so much about themselves, and it gave them answers that they were seeking. So it was really helpful in that way. So I think it's going to be
in Sarasota, or that can attend Spirit Fest, especially this weekend. What can you recommend as far as working with crystals to help connect with the earth and the masters that are wanting to give us information right now?
One of the important things is our alignment right now. And so what they're really suggesting that we do is we're talking about our vertical energetic alignment, which is called our pillar of light. And so when we imagine that we're connecting down into the crystalline grid of the earth, now the crystalline grid of the earth has all of the ley lines and the sacred sites, the crystal energy, also the tree network is connected into the crystalline grid. And there's a lot of fifth dimensional energy in the crystalline grid now. So when we connect into the crystalline grid and merge with that energy, and then visualize merging up with source, or the sun, or the great central sun, however you want to imagine that, when we have the energy flowing both ways down that vertical column in that pillar of light, then we're actually pulling in higher dimensional energy, and also pulling up higher dimensional energy from the earth. And we're connecting to earth intelligence and cosmic intelligence. So that brings us into that centered balance place, which is so important right now with so much chaos going on. And chaos will be continuing through the next couple of months for sure. I would say through the rest of this year. And so I think that is a really great advice for coming into that central place. But then also when you're in that place, then you can find that stillness and that quiet inside where you can hear what your soul and your heart are trying to say. And you can connect into higher guidance easily.
One of the things that we've talked about on our show in the past was if anybody's watched Hamilton. Have you seen it, the show?
No, I haven't.
I love musicals and I love history. And so Hamilton is just so good. But it really gives a great glimpse into what the founding fathers, what was going on between them when they, wrote our Declaration of Independence after we won the war. And when you look at that and you realize we've been in chaos for 200 years, this really isn't, what's going on now seems really horrible and horrifying, and it's just different. It's not any better or worse than really it's been. And even when Teddy Roosevelt was elected, that election was just as ugly as the last one that we just had, where everybody's so divided. So I don't think that what's going on now is super indicative of, our ascension. It's just more of it. So what we've talked about both on the show and you and I, Nancy, is for people just to focus on more of what you want to see. Don't get caught up in what you don't want.
Yes.
And the triggers and things like that. Just focus on it. And then as we're spending more time in 5D as compared to 3D, then we're going to continue to see more of that. It's really that simple, but it just feels really, really bumpy.
Well, and
it's chaotic.
It's a good reminder that we need to think about, we are the creators of the new earth. We're the ones. So the question is, what do we want that to be? What do we want the new earth to be? What type of world do we want that to be? And so that's what we need to think about, and that's what we're creating. But first, whatever that is, we need to create it within ourselves first. We're like the microcosm for the macrocosm. And so when we create that harmony and that place of love and joy within ourselves, then we can move that out into the world. And because our vibration radiates out to the world.
Right.
And the cumulative vibration of everyone's radiance is what's creating everything right now. So we need to really listen to that. And here's an interesting thing is Saint Germain of the Violet Flame is actually the patron of the United States.
Interesting.
And the violet flame is the 7th violet divine flame. And it is actually the flame of freedom. So the question is, what can we free ourselves from that's holding us back? What is weighing us down and holding us down from moving up into our higher potential? And so when we think about using or visualizing the violet flame, whether we visualize ourselves in the violet flame or our home in the violet flame, we can call upon Saint Germain or Archangels Zadkiel and Holy Amethyst and say, please transmute my energy, and that will clear away anything that's holding you down. And there's a lot of that. I think there's so much grief and sadness and anger in the world right now. We need to keep clearing ourselves of that so that we can be uplifted. And we can't help anyone else unless we can keep ourselves up. And so I think that's a great visualization to do now.
Right. Sure.
The violet flame. Yeah.
So how long have you been communicating with the masters?
I would say for 20 years. And it's interesting that in December of 2012 was when the Pleiadians first came into my vortex garden. I call it my vortex garden because it started as an herb garden, but then it turned into an energy garden, and there ended up being a vortex of energy in the center. And that's when the Pleiadians came. And so it started with Pleiadians and Arcturians, and there was a shapeshifter and some different ascended masters that came first, and then more started coming after that. And then I got connected with the She started coming through, and the Agarthans of the inner earth, and the Lemurians, and Adama from Mount Shasta came because he wanted to work with the Pleiadians that are there. There's so many Pleiadians now, it's sort of created the Pleiadian Institute, I call it. And they seem to be, I keep getting little reports from them, and they're very busy using the vortex as a channeling device to be bringing in these new light energies that are coming in. So that's been pretty interesting.
Something that people that don't live in Florida, and even people that may live in Florida, don't realize how many hills there actually are in your area. If you were to look at the state of Florida in a topographical map, one that shows higher and lower things, you'll see that there is a ridge that runs right up the middle of Florida. And it looks like that back in Pangea, when the continents were all closer together, that at some point they collided and it just made a little rift come up in the center of
Yeah.
the state. And so there, and it's actually very hilly. West of me, there's a street called Lookout or Overlook or something like
Yeah.
that. And, it even reminded me very slightly of Central New York with the rolling hills and
Oh, I know. We're both from Central New York, so we
yes,
missed that.
we do. But the what I think is because Disney World is built right on there as well, and as we know, Walt Disney was a magician. That the energy is very special along this ridge, and that's where your vortex garden is. On the south
Yes.
end of the ridge is a place in Lake Wales, Florida, where they have the weird gravity, where if you park a car up a hill and put it in neutral, it'll go up the hill. Nobody can really understand why. But there's definitely some interesting anomalies going on with regard to that ridge. So it stands to reason that your vortex garden would be on some type of energetic line here in Florida, which I think is really cool.
Yes, and also it sits over the Florida aquifer.
Oh,
So because we're over the Florida aquifer in this area. They call it the green swamp. But I think there's a lot of resonant energy in aquifers too. So I think that sort of amplifies what's going on in the garden.
Interesting side note. They believe that when the pyramid in Egypt was actually a power plant, that's another show, another time. But when it was at its height and the energy was running through it like it was, and it provided power to the area, and then also initiations were done there, but there was a aquifer and running water underneath the pyramid. So, they tapped into that as well. So that's another really cool thing to know.
Water's the great medium.
Mhm.
It amplifies. It's an amplifier, and it's programmable. So just
Mhm.
like the water we drink, we can program water and quartz
Crystal. Interesting.
quartz crystal. So
Okay. Something. So there was so much that you talked about in the beginning. I could tell you went right into channeling.
Yeah, they're here with me.
One of the things is many people aren't familiar with the rays. And when you
Right.
study them, there's a lot to it. And when you realize how much there is on an esoteric level that we can really get into, those are some more of the advanced things, I think. But can you just briefly explain what the rays are?
Sure. There's about 18 or more now, but the first 7, the first ray is the ray of power and will. It's the blue ray. The second ray is the yellow ray of wisdom. The third ray is the pink ray of love.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth ray is the white ray of purity.
Mm-hmm.
The fifth ray is the green ray of truth and healing and science. The sixth ray is the purple ray of peace. And the seventh ray is the violet ray of freedom, transmutation. If people are interested, I'm starting a series on my blog, on my website. If you go to my blog, I'm writing an article for each of the divine rays. And it has some of the ascended masters, some of the angels, and some of the LOM that are connected to that ray. And it gives you some information about what is the ray is about and who you can connect with to ask for help for certain things. But yeah, there's a lot. There's like 18 of them now. And so the rays keep raising the vibration on the planet. The eighth ray is sort of a purple green ray that moves us up into higher transformation. And then the ninth ray is the aqua ray of higher potentials that I was mentioning. That Mother Mary is sort of bringing in. She's
I'm trying to think
Actually,
of where I first heard of them, and I want to say, did Madame Blavatsky talk about them? How were they first introduced? Do you know?
I think she worked a lot with the Ascended Masters, El Moria Khan, and who was it? There were three of them that were actually they were the three wise men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I forget, it was El Moria Khan and
Okay.
there anyhow. So yes, but I think it's a little earlier than that. But they brought a lot of that information out with the Theosophical Society.
Yes,
brought it out into more mainstream understanding.
I'm trying to remember what faith the wise men were. Were they Zoroastrians?
I think some of them were. I wish I could look up real quick who the three of them were, but it's interesting because she worked with all three of them.
Right.
And
yeah, I believe that they were Zoroastrian, but I'll get an answer on that and say for sure.
We can talk about that another time, and I can get my facts organized for that.
But it's really interesting because then that goes into, they were, of course, astrologers. That's how they were recognizing, the star in the sky and everything. Somebody is asking for your blog name, by the way. I'll check that while you give your blog name.
If they go to my website, there's a tab on my website that says blog.
Okay.
And so if they go to my website, they can connect onto it. And also, just as a side note, on my website, if you go under news and specials, you can see the different services and the different classes that I can give. Also, they're listed under that. But yeah, I do get a blog, and I like to try to bring the latest of information that I'm given. I like to put it on my blog.
Okay, wonderful. So they were Zoroastrian. They spoke an old Persian language. They came from Iran. So in the typical Christian tradition, they were there when he was still an infant. But most historical scholars believe that he was probably at least a year old by the time, because they had to walk there or at least ride there. So but that's very interesting. I love to put the science and the history into the different, legends and biblical history that's out there. It's really fascinating. Okay, so one of the other things I thought would be interesting to talk about, there's so many, was with Venus, about this new energy, or it's not that it's new, it's just it's becoming more apparent to us, or more tangible. Don't you speak a little bit more about that?
Well, Venus would like us to be the new planet of love and light. Venus has always been known as the planet of love and light, and that's what they would like us to become, the new planet of love and light. So they're bringing in, like I said, this Venus light ray. And just before the Venus ray came in, there was a large inundation of golden light. And I felt the golden light created a foundation from which we're now building. Then the Venus light came in that brought in more energy for us to create our new civilization. And then came the Syrian light, and now the aqua light. They're all continuing to flow, but it seems like focus is shifting a little bit to, okay, now we're going to highlight this one. But they're all continuing to flow in. The Venus light also felt very heart comforting. And it was coming in, it started coming in around June. And I feel like it's trying to help us. Our hearts are so battered over COVID and everything going on in our country right now. And it was meant to bring in a lot of healing and comfort to help us through that. And it's interesting, simultaneously to this, a focus came to me of the Sisterhood of the Rose. And the Sisterhood of the Rose is basically a lot of masculine, feminine aspects that are devoted to divine feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And many of the members of the Sisterhood of the Rose are from Venus, which was very interesting. And also simultaneously to all of that focus, my new spray, Spiritual Light, was channeled in. And that is a spray that has crystal essences, color, flower, and essential essences and essential oils in it. And again, Mother Mary was very predominant, and Archangel Raphael were very predominant in bringing in this spray. And Mother Mary, I hadn't known this before, but she's actually an archangel also. She's known as Archaea Maria.
Wow.
And she is the twin flame of Archangel Raphael, who is the archangel of healing, which was very interesting to me. I hadn't known that before. And so she is all about divine love and bringing divine love and nurturing energy onto the planet. So anyhow, the spray, what's interesting is the spray has a very angelic quality to it. And I literally saw almost 4 angels. Like if someone sprays themselves, I could see 4 angels start lifting them up. So there's actually an uplifting quality that comes with a spray that helps emotionally uplift people, but also to help them move into their higher potential. So that was kind of an interesting coincidence that all 3 of those were sort of emphasized at the same time. So that's a really great spray. That's my newest spray. But that's what I feel like is the main emphasis coming from Venus, is moving into our hearts and moving into our higher aspects of our heart. And what does that mean? It means moving into the part of us that embraces divine love or unconditional love. It also is being our higher self in our loving capacity. So again, it's asking us to move it up. I think we're all being asked right now to take it up to the next level.
Yeah.
Don't rest down here. It's time to up the game. And I think that's what they're
to look at, the positive aspects. I don't want to say look on the bright side. This has really been just a kind of a crappy year, but
yeah,
there have been positive aspects that have come out of it. And, one is having the time, having the opportunity to reevaluate how we treat others, or, how we feel about things, about freedom, about, there's so many aspects of this pandemic year that are self-reflective for us. And then we should just try to look at the positive, the opportunities that have come out of it. So, these are all.
And a key to that has been what is true. And there's so much misinformation flying around, and so much of it purposefully being manipulated, that for ourselves, we need to go, okay, what is true? What feels true? What feels right? And again, that's where moving into the stillness and moving into your heart and soul, and like listening, like what do I value? What is important? What do I want? Who do I want to be? What do I want this world to be? And when we check into those ideas, then we know how to move forward. And we know that we're living our strongest beliefs from our heart, and our highest aspirations. And then we try to create that in the world. And if we all do that, then we're all coming from a place of truth and healing. And the thing that's interesting with the green ray of healing is the premise is that you must know the truth in order to heal. If you're not living your truth, then you will not be healthy. So the more that you live your truth, the more that you know what that is, and the more that and when you know what that is, then you come back to that place of centered calm. Then you're not feeling like you're being manipulated from the outside world, and you have a greater sense of security and comfort. I think, at least I find that way. Um, if I haven't meditated in a long time and then I feel disconnected, then I start feeling more anxious, So I think a great thing to do is when you connect inside, then you help release a lot of that anxiety.
Yeah, and unless you really practice meditation, and so many people say, "Oh, I can't meditate. I've tried and I fall asleep," or "I tried and my mind won't shut off," or whatever. But meditation isn't just about relaxing. It's really
Right.
about coming back into balance, about just being calm. And if you can even meditate for a minute, but even start simple, start for
Right.
20 seconds. And
Mm-hmm.
then you could even do a mantra,
Yeah.
and it could be as simple as Mary had a little lamb or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you learn to not let other thoughts in, and kind of this, again, another show we can talk about meditation, but it is so good for you.
Yeah.
The books that we sell, in fact, I'm going to be putting books on the website soon, as a matter of fact, but it's called 90% Happier by ABC anchor Dan Harris, who wasn't super spiritual and worked too much and probably did some drugs that he shouldn't have, and had a panic attack on the air. And
Oh.
his doctor told him if he wanted to live to be an older person, he was going to need to quit it right away. And he found meditation, and that he literally just sings the praises, says it saved his life, and he talks about it in such a practical way. How to do it on a regular basis. He's married and has kids and has a high pressure job, yet he finds time to do it. And it's finding the little things. So we'll talk more about meditation and about that book in some of the other shows as well. So
Yeah.
Nancy, do you ever get any messages that come through kind of live time while we're here, or anything in particular about Florida? I don't want to put you on the spot, so you
No,
can.
no. I'm just,
Yeah.
as you're talking, I'm putting my feelers out there. I think one of the things that is important for us, and this kind of goes back a little bit to the meditation that you were talking about. I found for myself that if I use the meditation as a visualization, if I visualize a particular kind of light, or if I listen to some music that I can kind of go into and just float inside the music, that really helps me take me to that place. But right now, I think what they want us to do is start actually consciously taking in the light
Mhm.
right now. So you can imagine it being either a ball of white light that has all the colors in it,
Mhm.
just sitting over your head, and then just slowly descending down through your body. And as it's descending down through your body, it's clearing and energizing all of the chakras, and then it goes down into the earth, and it transmutes anything that it's collected down into the earth.
Mhm.
That would be a really great quick visualization. It can take a minute,
Mhm.
and it'll just kind of calm everything down as it's descending, and it just sort of realigns your energy column.
Mhm.
That, or visualize bringing in this new light, this beautiful aqua light,
Mhm.
which feels very sort of has a little effervescent quality, sort of like a menthol quality. It
Mm.
feels cool and tingling and purifying, but it has this uplifting quality. And that's a really lovely um, visualization, to just imagine that this light is pouring down on you and you're just absorbing it and just
Mhm.
experiencing it. And I think that's what they'd like us to do right now,
Mhm.
because I think we need to calm our emotional selves and
Mhm.
let it enhance our health and well-being at the same time. And
Mhm.
I think these lights will really help do that.
Mhm. One of the another show, I think we've got a month's worth now ahead of us, is about going into the heart consciousness. And it's so much more than just thinking, I'm in my heart now. I love you. I feel loved. It's so much more than that. Your heart is actually a thinking organ, just like your brain. And when we learn to start thinking from our heart and literally speaking from our heart instead of using our brain to choose the words, letting our heart choose it, it's going to be amazing. And we can get more into that as well. There's a
Yeah.
great organization called Heart Math. I believe it's all one word, heartmath.org, I think it is, that explains more about that. But heart consciousness is really the key right now, more so than ever.
Absolutely. And there's one of my favorite visualizations is going into the heart sanctuary, which we I think we also do that in the Crystal Power workshop. But the going into the heart sanctuary, which is sort of like a quick, in a nutshell version of it, is imagining there's a white light trail that takes you to your heart sanctuary, and you follow this trail and you go through this white light door into this room. And this room is your heart sanctuary, and the colors and the sounds, and whether it's indoors or outdoors, and whatever architecture is in this room, and whatever beings are in this room, all of that speaks to what your divine essence is all about and who you are. So if you really want to get to the essence of you and your truth, go into your heart sanctuary, and that's where you'll see the color that your vibration radiates, and you learn so much about yourself. And in this room, you can invite your higher self to come and talk with you, or other guides, and or other ancestors and loved ones. So it's an incredible place to gain information and to use it as your little sort of workshop space, and finding out more about who you are and what all of your skills are. So that's a really great visualization to do. And again, it takes you just where you need to be, in your heart.
Right. Right. One of our viewers asked a question about, so many things have fallen away, including the death of a loved one. And she's looking to get herself back together in the midst of now looking for a job in the middle of all this. I have some thoughts, but tell me what you would suggest, based on what you're hearing from the masters and everything. What do you say to people? Because so many of us are in that position right now.
For the solace and wondering what's my next step, I would go to my heart sanctuary and talk to my higher self. Because your higher self knows all of your lifetimes and the themes of all that you've been trying to accomplish through all your lifetimes. And your higher self knows your life purpose for this lifetime. So for that pertinent information, I go to my higher self and I get answers. I have a conversation. And I ask for, okay, what do I do today? What do I do tomorrow? You can get a step-by-step flow through that. And so that's very helpful for that kind of information. As far as where we're being taken, we are going through major transformation. Whenever I hear my guides talk about it, because believe me, I've gone to them and like, all right, what is going on in the United States? We need your help. This is just horrible. And what I hear is trust that there is a plan in action right now, and it's moving along, and we're being asked. And I think to best help the situation is when we can be in line with them. And that's called being in the state of grace. Being in the state of grace is when our soul intelligence is connected in with the earth intelligence and the divine intelligence, which again is done through that vertical alignment, the pillar of light. When we have that flow of energy and we're connected into earth, and we can feel the power of the earth coming through us, and connected into the intelligence of earth, which knows the evolutionary plan, which we're going through a major evolutionary shift.
Yeah.
And then connected up with cosmic intelligence, that's called being in a state of grace. That keeps us connected. And so when we have that going on, then we're in the flow of all that's transpiring and moving along right now. And we're sort of in the eye of the hurricane instead of being tossed around on the outside. That allows us to gain information that will help us know what's going on. And a super great way to do that is for everyone to go into their backyards and go to their tree in their backyard and put their hand on the tree, and from their heart connect to the tree and connect to the spirit of the tree, and just start having a conversation. Because the trees network are all connected, and they archive earth history. They are channelers, like we're channelers, so they're bringing in the higher frequency energies and are moving through them. So we can actually, when we connect to the tree, we can move up in dimension through the tree. We can imagine that we're inside the tree going up. It's almost like an elevator. You can go down into the higher frequency inner earth realms, or you can go up into the higher dimensional aspects within the tree. And it's a great tool for getting some profound information, and especially for being in alignment with what's going on the planet. Then we're connected in a loving way with the planet. And I think that really is helpful for the planet and us at this time.
One of the things that I tell people, because as you know, I worked at a major theme park, which recently thousands and thousands of people lost their jobs last week. The first thing that I would suggest to people is try not to be in fear. It's okay to grieve, especially when you lose loved ones, if you lose relationships, if you lose certain situations, if you lose jobs, especially ones that you really liked. Try not to be in fear. Try to see that the universe is taking us someplace bigger. The other thing I tell them is, don't be surprised if things look very different in your life soon. But it might also be way cooler than you ever imagined. That if you will just put it out there and just say, this is what I need, don't be in fear, the universe will surprise and delight you with what is going to come your way. So those were the things, because we all feel like things are falling apart, but things have to fall apart before they can get built back up again even better. And that's what the masters, I think, are, trying to remind us, so profoundly and wisely.
We're being thrown into the void. And the void, I remember this card from this tarot deck that I have that's called the Void card. And the void is actually, it's not like a black pit of emptiness and despair. It's actually a neutral place of all possibility. So it's a place where, okay, now you can create anything. This is all opportunities and possibilities exist. And so again, going back into the heart and the inside, and just instead of fear, try to just go into creativity. And even I know my guides keep saying, just do something creative because that's the best vibration for me to be in, is when I'm creative. So I've just been a creative junkie making things, but I recommend it because it helps keep me focused out of fear and keeps me productive and having fun, and going into, like when you were a child and you got to color and play. We need to be in that vibration. And again, we're the ones who are creating the new earth. So it's like literally pull out your crayons. What kind of world do we want to color? what kind of
Mhm.
world do we want to create, and
Mhm.
trying to go with that energy. It's so hard, I know, because everything is being affected.
Mhm.
But I remembered last November, my guides. One of the places that I go is this place called the Universal Library,
Mhm.
and my guides took me into this conference room in this Universal Library, and there was this massive round table with like 50 guides standing around this table, and they turned on this hologram and they showed me the Earth. And I'm like, oh, and so I'm watching this hologram, and I could see this light descending on the Earth, and it went on to it saturated the Earth to the inner core, and then the light expanded out from the inner core, and then the Earth shattered into a bazillion pieces. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute,
Yeah.
what's this all about? And they're like, no, this is just that part's symbolic. And what that means is all the old paradigms are going to shatter. And
Mhm.
I'm like, well, when is this going to happen? And it's like starting in February. And then here we go. Then the
Mhm.
pandemic swung in,
Mhm.
and here we are. And old, all our old paradigms are shattering.
Mhm.
And we have to say good riddance to the old paradigms because they weren't working. They were
You're right.
broken.
Yeah.
They don't measure up to the new vibration. And those things that don't measure up to the new high vibration
Mhm.
cannot exist in the new vibration. So we need to just, I guess, be in creative mode and say, hey,
Mhm.
this isn't working. Let's think of something better.
Right.
Um,
Just like an
rather than
old.
saying, oh, well, this is the way it used to be. It was so great. It's like, no, it wasn't.
Think
We
of the
just need to.
old rotary phones. You dialed them, they plugged into the wall, you had a cord, you couldn't go very far
Yep.
from the phone. And it was better than the one that you had to ring
Yeah.
up. But then we went to the touch tone phones, and then you went to cordless phones, and now everybody's on their cell phone. They can find you anywhere. So even though it might seem like I really like that, I don't want to let it go, but there's so much better that it's going to be replaced with.
Yeah.
Um, I just and hold that vision. I know that to be true.
Yeah.
And that's what the masters are saying. And we've got some really cool stuff coming in. If we can just get through this without getting stressed out, bundled up in our anxiety,
Yeah.
and the fear of, but this is Orlando, and I know there's so many creative people around here. We're going to find new ways of doing things too. Look at how much new we're doing online now too. So
Yes.
yeah. So
Yes.
um,
And even if you look at, and again, the Syrian light that was coming in is to help us vision a new world. It's to help us activate more of our higher psychic abilities of visioning and imagination, to get our imagination going so that we can imagine ourselves out of this mess that we're in. And again, it's so hard, but um I liken it also to like when you decide you're going to renovate your kitchen
mhm.
and you tear it all apart, and then when everything's in disarray around you, you get really depressed and you're going, what was I thinking? And you just have to keep going back to that idea of like, okay, this was what I was going to do with the renovation. This was the really snazzy new version that I'm going to create. Just stay focused on that and
Mhm.
take one step at a time to get that kitchen rebuilt. That's where I think we're at. We're in that place where we're going, oh my gosh, everything's a mess. It's horrible. What's going on? What were we
Right.
thinking?
Mhm.
And we like, nope, stay with the vision, stay with the exciting new version, and take one step at a time, and let's create that. And I
That's a
think that
great analogy.
enthusiasm
Good.
is what we need.
Yeah, good. That really is good. A good way to look at it. And even though we might not know what the new kitchen's going to look like, it's going to be
That's
great.
right. That's
All right,
right.
we've got time for one more question here. And someone asked, when you were speaking of taking in the light, what exactly does that mean, and how do we take the light in?
Um, by imagining it. Our imagination is the highest mental power that we have. And where our focus goes, so energy goes. So if we imagine that light is descending down and saturating our being than it actually is. So when that's why visualization is so powerful, and that such a powerful tool is in manifestation, is because when we send energy into it with a certain thought form, and we keep feeding that thought form with our energy, that thought form will manifest in the third dimension.
Yeah.
So that's how we're doing that, basically. So when we visualize it, we're directing the energy. And so we're literally creating that to happen as we're visualizing it. Our mental abilities are far greater than we know.
Yes. Yeah.
And they tell me our love power is far greater than we know. So the two are required to manifest. As a matter of fact, adamantine particles is what everything in the universe is made out of. And the only way that they can be activated is with the heart, with love energy. Love energy is the only thing that activates them into when we want to manifest. So again, directing with our thoughts and using our imagination. You've heard of people say, before operations, they visualize what is happening in their body with the operation. They visualize that they're healing quickly and working with that. Then the body's like, oh, okay, that's what we're going to, they see the plan and the path, and that really helps send the energies in that direction. So I think that's
and it also, we're taking it in our etheric field as well too.
Yes.
We're visualizing this not only coming into our body, but into the energy field that's around us, and then they work hand in hand. So it's much more effective. You'll start to feel it. You'll know when it's happening because you'll start to feel it. You'll know exactly what's going on.
Yes. Our energy field is like a good shell around us, and it has different layers. There's a spiritual layer, then a mental layer, then an emotional layer, and then there's sort of your template, your etheric template layer, and then the physical body. So if we can contract an illness, it's got to get through all the layers to get to our physical body. So if we can stop it, with changing our thought patterning so that we're not collecting, then we can change things before it gets through all those layers and manifests in our physical body. So that's another great reason for sort of cleaning house and, clearing away thoughts that work against us, clearing away emotions that work against us, that bring us down, that lower our energy, and all of that keeps our vibration up. And when our vibration is up, then we're healthier.
Okay.
On all levels. I hope I answered people's questions clearly.
Yes, I definitely think you did. There's so much more that we can get into. That's what.
I know.
This so much to just build on. So before we go, I want to thank everybody that joined us live here today.
Yes, thank you.
But also, please check our sanctuary website, sanctuaryfl.com. It's on here on the screen. We've got information about our upcoming shows, but then also Nancy is on our board of directors, and her contact information is on there as well. You can learn more about the sanctuary and what we do together as a group. But really, we're here, for you and because of you. We're here to help people, to, help lift each other up, to connect people, to help you find the information that you want and that you need, and that's why we're drawn to each other here. So our website, Sanctuary.
Well, I'm going to be selling at the show, so I'll be there as a vendor as well as teaching the workshop. So if you have any other questions when you come to the show, ask me. I'll be there.
Okay.
So,
and on the Sanctuary website is the information on how to register for your class. It's also on our Facebook page. And then for those of you on the other side of Florida, we have another Spirit Fest coming up October 31st, November 1st weekend, Halloween, full moon, All Saints Day. It's going to be a really powerful weekend. But you're doing the same workshop there as well.
Yes.
So everybody can join us there. So one last time, Nancy's website, elementsdesigncollection.com. So we'll keep in touch. So I think that we've got a few more shows to go, Nancy. So
Yeah.
hopefully you'll join us again soon. This is really,
Yes,
really.
we have many different topics we can go off on.
Yes, yes. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.